Hello, I'm JW, and today we're going to have a look at these. This is a BS1363 socket, and that's just the plug in there. And this is the standard that's been used in the UK since the late 1940s, so it's been around for a pretty long time. And one of the features of these is that the holes here, the line and neutral holes, have shutters behind them, so you can't actually poke objects or things in there. And just for the avoidance of doubt, this is not connected to any power, so you can't actually get in there, so fingers and objects can't actually be pressed in, and the shutters are either opened by the actual insertion of the earth pin here, or on some designs it requires that all three pins are inserted simultaneously to open the shutters. And these shutters have been part of the specification since this was introduced in 1947, so pretty much since day one. So all of these in existence should have the protective shutters behind in one design or the other, and of course most of them do, but I found this particular example here, which is rather horrid, and this does not have any shutters behind the line and neutral holes. And we get the screwdriver there, we just poke it straight in and actually contact with the metal on the back. So is it a case that they've actually just failed internally and disappeared, or is it the case that they were never there, in which case this doesn't actually comply with the specifications and never did? So let's open this and have a look inside. Now this is the modern example here, and you can see inside the holes there's actually a plastic shutter, which when you put the pin in here would press those down, and there's the contacts exposed inside. So some child or something comes along, tries to poke objects in here, then of course that's not going to happen. And of course same with that one, it's exactly the same. So unless you actually put a pin in here or some object and actually press them down, then you're not going to get any contact with the line or neutral contacts inside. So that's perfectly fine. So this particular one, which came out of a house that was being refurbished, as you can see there's nothing in there. You can see the metallic contact on both of those, and in terms of the hole here, well again nothing happening in there, and certainly that does not comply, and though it's obviously pretty old, wouldn't have complied at the time either. So let's see if we can just open this and see what's happening in the back. Now the brand is on the top here, it says Ediswan, made in England, and various other numbers and standards on the back, and it does have BS1363 on the back here, 13 amp non-track and so on. It also says clicks at the bottom here, and AC only. In fact it seems to be pretty well covered with writing of all kinds. So we can just undo these and see what's actually inside. Now, so this came out of a house that was being rewired. It was actually a few years ago. This has been in storage for some considerable time, like many other things that happen to be in the collection. So let's see if we can let's get inside in some fashion. Now of course these things are not generally designed to be opened, but nevertheless we'll have a go anyway. So just this other screw here. Now here's the internals. I just had to cut off the earth pin or the earth tab there, so it just sort of connects across there to this piece here, as it's been crimped into the cover. So obviously not possible to remove that without breaking something. So that's the earth terminal at the top here, and then we've got the other terminals here, and then of course the one on the back there, and this one being the line actually goes via the switch here, and then the switch is this little plastic piece which just rests in there and it's held in place by the hole in the front plate there, so it just fits over like that. It's a very simple switch. It's actually broken as well, but then this whole thing is in a bit of a state, and you can see there it's just a question of the sprung contact behind. So when the switch is actually in the off position, it presses down, and then it does not join between these two, and in the on position it's a spring underneath just lifts this against the two contacts on this side and here. So this is permanently connected to the power, and then this part here to the terminal is only connected of course when the switch is in the on position. Although that's pretty poor quality, it's fairly common of this style of thing, and certainly this age. So here's a closer view, and you can see that, that switch there is just that sprung bit of metal in there. And it does have shutters, and here they are, and as you can see they sort of sit there in the slid to one side position, so that's why they couldn't actually be seen from the outside, and they sort of on this kind of pivot in the middle, so when it's pulled up like that, And of course the spring is broken, which is why it's not going back into place. They do cover that. I notice it's actually a bit broken off here anyway, where the neutral pin would go in. And of course pressing the earth pin in would push that down and then just pivot it down there, and of course up in the case of that side. So it does have shutters in there, which is say what you would normally expect, because it's a requirement and has been since the standard was written in 1947. But these have broken in a fairly horrible fashion. As you can see that it doesn't actually return to the top position without some considerable effort. And in terms of the spring, that may be it in there. What may have been, let's see, that just slides down there. May have been a spring there, possibly, or it may be this piece here. Yes, that's actually the spring at the top there. So I've just released that back into place. Then hopefully the shutters should now work as they were intended. Yeah, but again, it's come off the spring again, so not a very good design. And of course, once they're in that position, they'll pretty much stay there forever. If we get the plug pin, you should be able to see how that turns like that. So it works to a fashion that then it's just going to stick and jam again. And of course the plate just fits over there with the 3 holes, so in the closed position, again you don't actually see the contacts through those holes, you just see the back of the shutter. And then in the open position, of course, it's what we had before, so the shutters apparently have disappeared. So that's a fairly old socket there, and I say it does have the shutters, it's just that the mechanism is pretty unreliable and obviously basically jams in place every time you put a plug into the slot at the top. So that certainly answered that question. So this came out of a building a number of years ago, and was purely kept for the purposes of seeing whether it did actually have shutters in it or not. Now this plug here is also an old one. It doesn't have the sleeved pin, so of course that's not supposed to be used anymore. And it does have that inspection hole in the top there, so you can just have a look in and see if there's a wire connected or not without opening the thing. But again, the new ones don't have that either. And well, I've got this white one here. This is a fairly new one, only purchased fairly recently, and it has a rather undesirable feature on the back, in that normally when you put the screws through the 2 holes, and the screws are actually here because this one has never been used, generally you put the screws in the holes here, and these are actually earthed automatically by virtue then there's normally a metal strap that goes around the holes on either side. And if you're not going to be bothered to put a lead to the metal box in the wall, this also means that these therefore connect the metal box in the wall to the earth by virtue of the fact that these are earthed via the strap. And of course when the socket is screwed in, then it's all earthed and is properly done. However, in this design, as you can see, there is no metal strap going to these holes. They're just plastic, and the strap here, which goes from here obviously over to this side with the 2 earth terminals there, doesn't extend down to the side screws on either side. So if you're going to use one of these, then you would have to put an actual link from the earth terminal here to the metal box in the wall. Otherwise, even when it's screwed in the wall, the box in the wall would not be earthed, and even worse, the metal screw heads are exposed, connected to the metal back box, so if a fault occurred inside, then the back box is going to become live and just sit there with these exposed parts being live as well, until someone just touches that and gets a shock from it. Now the make on these has these 3 letters HLM, whoever they might be, and it's generally a pretty poor quality thing altogether. It also has the weird screws there, which sort of a cross thing with a slot through it as well, which unfortunately neither fits crosses or slot ones, and the entire thing is rather substandard quality. And you see the bar here is all sort of flexible and bending out of place, and quite frankly it's obviously been made down to the lowest possible price. And so this is particularly old. If I look here, the date there, March 2013, so this is only a couple of years out of the factory. So this one has actually not been used because it's just basically a pile of junk. So rather an odd piece of equipment, and whoever HLM might be certainly would not recommend buying one of these. However, as we're taking stuff apart, we might as well take this apart and look inside. I certainly won't be using this on anybody's installation, because even if you put a lead in from there, the whole thing is just shouts poor quality and the very kind of thing that's likely to fail very quickly. So let's just see how they've done the shutters on this one. You can probably guess from the... Oh, that's nice. Look at all the white powder that's come out of there. That's just the ground bits of plastic from where the screws have obviously just been mashed into the front plate rather than having proper threads cut there. I've just got a bit of the screw in the centre there. Right, there we go. Now, it's fairly likely bits are going to ping out everywhere. Well, we can see the shutter arrangement there straight away. It's just a piece of sliding plastic, and then there's that little spring there which goes in the middle. So when the earth pin is inserted, it's just pushing that down. It's hard to do with the spring there, but it's just pushing that down there, and of course uncovering the holes at the bottom. Of course that spring would be held in by the pieces on the back, so let's just have a look inside this. So this very short strap at the top is, as you see, made out of tin foil thickness material. It bends exceptionally easily, and certainly if we're going to be putting wires in the screw hole here and tightening it up, it's quite likely that the force of the screwdriver is going to cause this to twist, and of course then pull the earth terminal on this side out of alignment. Fairly nasty quality there. Switches here in the middle with little springs underneath as well. Little pegs there just to press down on the mechanism. Yeah, and it's just a basically a piece of pressed metal there, one of which tilts backwards to obviously make the contact and forwards to not to make it, and it's kind of just joining between the little bits of metal inside. And of course the same over there, that's exactly the same. That's the other shutter falling out there. The contacts inside, these have just been sort of heat staked down, where there's just a post of plastic, the metal is placed over, and then a heated thing is pressed down on it to expand the plastic and basically hold it down in position. Again, that's not a particularly reliable way of doing it. And again, it's just linked across from one side to the other there. And of course, this one likewise goes with other switches. So I've got the switch for this side and the switch for the other one over there. And there's a reasonable clearance there between the what is actually the neutral and line for the two contacts there. So yeah, reasonable enough. But notice there's no insulation there. It's just purely relying on the air gap between. So it's not likely to get pressed down. But yeah, there's still a reasonable gap in there. These do look like brass, although again they're extremely thin. There. Yeah, that's interesting. It's not actually the thing I thought it would be. So normally it's a post and then it's pressed down and melted, but these appear to be little pegs which they've just literally press fitted into the hole there, so presumably the other side will pop off just as easily. Yep, there it goes. Yeah, so they're not even heat staked down, it's just literally a press fit peg, and of course that's only held in by the virtue of the front panel being on top of it, so that's even worse. That contact isn't even attached to the piece of metal it's supposed to be connected to. So it's all very just sort of press fit together, or bits just sort of resting against other parts. Pretty mediocre quality. And again over this side here you can see we've got the terminal and the bar that come across are two completely separate pieces of metal. So this is your power coming across from the connection terminal here, or the neutral in this case, and as you see it's just a folded bit of metal there, and that just slots over the piece of metal that you've got in here. Definitely not what we call decent quality, so yeah, that just sort of hooks together onto the top of that. The back here is just this sort of moulded piece. You get the terminals just as loose as the other one, and again the front is just a moulded piece of white plastic there, of the style that chips and breaks when you bang things or drop it on the carpet. So anyway, that's fairly disappointingly low quality, but then given the look from the back of it, it's not entirely surprising. And say the shutter combination there, just the sliding bit, that's a fairly standard sort of arrangement. So there we go, that's a quick look at some BS1363 socket outlets. So until next time, thanks for watching.